Welcome to Downshift, everyone. My name is Matt, and this is the Hyundai Ioniq 6. And today's video is going to look a little bit different than it usually does, and that's for two reasons. One, I'm here at Road America test driving pretty much everything I can possibly get my hands on, and for that reason, speed and agility is the name of the game. So the production value that you're used to is going to be sacrificed a little bit for today. And the second reason is that we're trying a slightly different format. So at the end of the video, if you like what you saw, leave a comment. But for now, let's get into the Ioniq 6. Today we're going to cover the coolest features about the Hyundai Ioniq 6, and first we're going to talk about the EV stuff. Now this is based on the same platform as the Ioniq 5, means 800 volt architecture, so it charges nice and fast, 10 to 80% in about 18 minutes, under 20 minutes. Pretty impressive. In rear wheel drive SE trim, this thing can get up to 361 miles of range. Sorry about that noise. I told you we were at the track today. 361 miles of range for this thing. That's amazing. This is the dual motor one though, so it's closer to 270, but 270 miles for a dual motor EV is pretty decent. This thing gets 103 mpge, which makes it one of the more efficient vehicles on sale, but a little bit less efficient than something like a Model 3 or a Model Y, but still pretty good. And the next thing I want to show you is the key. Does that look familiar? Kind of cool. You can of course also use your phone as a key, and you have the digital key, so pretty cool. And next I want to draw your attention to the center console here. You can see that your window switches are here and not on the door. Now that's pretty common for things like a Bronco or a Wrangler, but that's because those doors come off of those cars. These doors don't come off here, and yet the window switches are here in the center. Interesting. And next I want to talk about the squares here. We talked about this a lot with the Ioniq 5, but this Ioniq 6 has a totally different shape. It's a lot more swoopy and curvy for the body, but you still have a whole bunch of squares. You have squares down here for your headlights. You have squares down here, and these will also indicate how much your vehicle is charged. And then we come around to the side, your wing mirror decal, or your wing mirror lights for your turn signals, those are squares. Your touch sensitive button for your entry, that's squares. Your fuel door is a circle, but it's got squares on it, of course. You've got squares for your LED rear brake light and reverse light. You've got squares for your entire tail light, and squares for your reverse lights down there. And of course, your trunk release, also a square. And then speaking of trunk, you can see that you have an actual trunk, not a hatch like you did in the Ioniq 5 or Tesla Model Y, but it is a trunk like you get in the Model 3. And that makes you think, oh, well, it's going to be less practical. Not really. Look how deep this is. Followers of the channel, you'll know that the Mazda CX-5, my personal car, trunk ends just about here at the end of my tripod. So you have almost a foot of extra depth here. This is a deep, deep trunk. And of course, you've got a little extra storage underneath. So pretty practical, and of course you can drop your seats from the back, and it's powered. Voila. And then we're going to go to your outlet. This looks very much like a fuel door. You tap on the squares and it opens electronically. Very nice, very luxe. You also have little square pixels here to indicate how much charge percentage you have, and you have a power closing thing as well. And the reason that I bring this up here is because you can also use this as a vehicle to load function. So you have an adapter that you can plug into here and then plug in your phone, your refrigerator, a blender, whatever you want. Pretty cool. You get about 2 kilowatts of power from your car. And now I want to talk about the screens. These are very similar to the screens that you had on the Ioniq 5, but they're arranged differently on the dash, and the design is of course different. We'll talk more about that later. But you do have a very completely digital instrument cluster with all of the great information that you would normally need. And then you've got the very familiar Hyundai infotainment system. You've got your EV screen here, so you can see how long you have on a charge, where the next place is to recharge. And then of course you've got the greatest hits on here, like your quiet mode, which is going to turn down the rear speakers in case you've got kids in the back there. And of course you've got one of my favorites, the sounds of nature. My favorite, as viewers will know, is Lively Forest, and it is quite lively, but there's a couple new ones here. You have On a Sailing Ship, which doesn't just play ocean sounds, but it plays like a marimba beat, so sick. And I promise I'll never talk about an antenna again, but I hope this is coming through on camera. It's translucent, you can see through it. Weird. And then we're going to talk about your gear selector, which reminds me very much of a bop it, twist it, push it. Yeah, twist for drive forward, twist back for reverse, push in for park. And then I want to talk about one of the most interesting design elements, and that's the double spoiler. Of course, you have a more normal molded-in lip spoiler here, but then you have this upper one. And of course, it's got some pixels in here, and they light up for your brake light and your reverse and all that stuff. But the way that it looks here, at this angle, does this not look like a Porsche 911 Whaletail? A little bit. And now I want to talk about ambient light. Of course, you can change things like brightness, but you also have two-tone for colors here. You have pre-programmed colors like concentration or healing forest. Imagine having healing forest on, which is Packer colors, by the way, while listening to lively forest. You'd be the most in tune person with nature of all time. Of course, until somebody puts on meditation. But you can also set a custom dual color or a custom color. And then you can change the upper portion and the lower portion. Pretty cool. And then it doesn't even stop there. You go all the way back, and then you've got this, sync with speed. So the lights will get brighter as you accelerate and dimmer as you decelerate. Really cool what they've done with ambient lighting here in the Ioniq 6. And then we're going to talk about these paddles here. Now these aren't uncommon. A lot of cars have paddles, but this is an electric car, so this isn't controlling your transmission. No, what it's controlling is your regen. So if you dial this on, it's like you're upshifting, so you're getting less regen. If you're dialing this one on the left, it's like you're downshifting, so you're getting more regen. And if you dial it all the way on, then you get I-pedal, which basically is like one pedal driving. Pretty cool. And one more place we didn't talk about the squares before is on the steering wheel. And these are even more interesting than the Ioniq 5 because they light up. And they can go red when you're recording, and they will also show how much charge you have if you're plugged in. And then we're going to check out the rear seats. Now, of course, this is the light interior, which is how I would get it, but really, really nice perforated leather. And you can see, as we step in, I have an acre of knee room. You don't have a panoramic roof, which is, I guess, subtly annoying, but I have enough room even with my nub at my hat. And of course you have map pockets, you've got vents, you've got dual USB-C, and interestingly, in the back, you have window switches on the doors, but not in the front, only in the back. And then speaking of seats, we'll just cover the front seats as well. Again, same kind of like very light gray, white leather, very comfortable, very nice. You also have this little tab here, which says Hyundai Ioniq 6 airbag, so you don't get it confused that it's maybe like a Porsche 911 airbag. And then here, you've got this interesting contrasting piping bit here. On this side, it's gold, and on this side, it's like dark gray. It's the same on that one too. Weird. And of course, your seats are heated and cooled, and you have lumbar adjustments and all of that great stuff that you expect. So there it is. Those are the 15 coolest things about the Hyundai Ioniq 6. Now we're going to grab that key that looks like the Hyundai badge and go for a spin. All right, behind the wheel of the Ioniq 6, here we go. Oh, full power, no wheel spin, nice clean start. I didn't really stand on the brake too much to get it started, but it's just nice. It's smooth. It's got a little bit of dynamic engine sound or whatever you want to call it, but it's just smooth. Even in sport mode, it's got about 360 horsepower, so it doesn't like snap your neck. It's just nice and smooth and refined. And then you can use the paddles to dial on regen. The steering is really light. It hefts up at speed, of course, so it's not like dangerous or erratic at all. But we're gonna push this button, and you can see this looks like it would be a dial to change the drive mode, but it is a button. And when you do change the drive mode, you can see that the lights on the steering wheel correspond to the color. So red is sport, green is eco, and blue is normal. So we're gonna go left. Of course, we have our nice Hyundai turn signal screen, and we'll wait for an hour while all these people go through. Okay, now we're just in normal. And now it is just smooth. And this is what I love about these Hyundai EVs. They just happen to be cars that are as smooth as they could possibly be, as quiet as they could possibly be, and they have funky interiors and exteriors. There's a lot of character here and a lot of personality from these Hyundais, and I just really like it. I mean, my wife and I, she just re-upped her contract, so she's got a long commute that she faces. She has free charging at work, so we're like very close to getting her an Ioniq 5, because of course she wants the bigger trunk, and this actually has a pretty big trunk, even with it being a sedan, but of course she likes the SUV thing. But anyway, I also do like the cyberpunk vibes on the Ioniq 5, but this 6 is pretty cool. I like that they've added a little extra touches with this. This makes it feel a little bit more characterful and a little bit more personality. I like that you can two-tone the ambient light, and that it does the thing where if you accelerate it gets brighter, and if you decelerate it gets darker, and it's just kind of fun. They found a way, with all these electric cars, they all kind of drive pretty similarly. The experience is very similar. So they've programmed in character and personality. And that's what I really like here. And they've done that without the expense of making it bad. I mean, you have fantastic range here, 270-ish miles for dual motor and almost, you know, approaching 400 horsepower. I mean, this is pretty cool. I'm impressed. Well done on the Ioniq 6, Hyundai. Very nice.